Today's daf is daf Mem Hey. We're going to begin 10 lines from the top. Mem Hey Amud Aleph. Hahu Avda the Orak. There was a story with a servant who ran away. Where did he run away from? He ran away from Chutz La'aretz. He ran from Chutz La'aretz, from outside of Eretz Yisrael, and he ran away to Eretz Yisrael. Ozom Mori Abasrei. So his master came after him. He wanted to bring him back to Chutz La'aretz. Also, the Kamei Reb Ami. So the master came in front of Reb Ami, and Amar Lei. Reb Ami told the master, Nichtiv Loch Shtara ad me. I could write for you a document that this Eved owes to you the value of himself. However, you have to write for him a shtar shicher that he is free. And if you're not going to agree to write a shtar shicher, I'm going to take away the Eved from you b'koyach of the Reb Acha b'Rabeshia, from the din of Reb Acha b'Rabeshia. Now, what was the din of Reb Ami? Now brings the Braisa, the din of Reb Acha b'Rabeshia, and he brings a Braisa azay. The Tanya we learned in a Braisa. This is about this. The Torah speaks about the 7 nations living in Eretz Canaan and Eretz Yisrael, that they're not allowed to live in Eretz Yisrael. It says the Yeshvu ba'artzecha. These nations are not allowed to live in your land, because perhaps they will convince to sin against me. And they're going to convince you to serve other gods, etc. So the Braisa says, Yochel, you would think that, and as the Pnei Yeshu explains, that you would think that this pasuk is referring to a goy who is mekabel sheva mitzvahs bnei neach on himself, that he also is not allowed to live in Eretz Yisrael. Talmud Leimer, that's what the pasuk says. Tazgir eved el adinov. The pasuk says that you shall not deliver to his master asher yinotzel elochem im adinov, who escaped to you from his master. Now the Braisa understands this pasuk speaking in terms about a goy who has come to Eretz Yisrael, escaping from Avodah Zarah. That's what it means. Sazker, so you would think that he can't live in Eretz Yisrael. That's why it says Tazker eved al adinov asher yinotzel elochem im adinov. Now the pasuk is speaking about that if a goy runs away in order to save himself from Avodah Zarah, asher yinotzel elochem im adinov, so you should not Tazker eved al adinov. Don't force him to go back to his master. The Braisa says, "My takonose." So what should you do with this person? Im chayesha b'kirbecha, that he shall dwell with you in your midst. This teaches us that as long as he accepts the sheva mitzvahs b'nei neach, he can remain in Eretz Yisrael. And Rabbi S had a question on this Braisa. Hi me'im adinov. Instead of using the expression me'im adinov, the Chayr should have said me'im avim mi'boilei, because as the Mefarshim explain, it's the father who is, if you want to use this as a metaphor, you should use the father, which is the one who raised him for religion, etc. Elam Rabbi Yeshia, so it should have said me'im aviv. Elam Rabbi Yeshia b'meicher avdi l'chutz la'aretz hakas medaber. Here we're talking about a person who sells his slave to a yid who lives outside of Eretz Yisrael, and the pasuk says that that imcha, he should live with you, means that he does not go with his new master outside of Eretz Yisrael, but he's free and remains in Eretz Yisrael. Now, Rabbi Acha had a shaila on this. Instead of using the pasuk, the expression of asher yinotzel elecho, that he escaped to you, the should say asher yinotzel me'imcha. It should have said who escaped from you. Rather, the Torah is speaking about a Eved that ran away from, like in our case, of Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, and teaches us that he may dwell there and does not have to return to his master. And based on this, Rabbi Acha, Rabbi S says, and Rabbi Ami is telling us that the master, and that's why Rabbi Ami told the master that the slave will be in any case free. Tani Yidov, we learned the one Braisa, the Torah says, you shall not dwell to his master a slave. Rebbe says, here we're talking about that a person purchased an Eved in order to free him, to redeem him, to free him. and the Torah is telling the Beis Din that you should make sure the second master does not work him. Heichidami, what's that case? Rav Nachman says the Kosel Hachi that he writes a shtar shicher to the that the Koina writes the shtar shicher in this nusach that when I purchase you, you're going to be Koina for yourself from now. Even though he has no shaykhs, Rebbe holds that he could redeem him from now because, as Rameir says, now the Gemara says a story. Reb Chizda's servant ran away to these people in Kutoi. Sholchu lehu, so Reb Chizda sent to them, Hadru nahale, give me back my servant. Sholchu lei, so the Bei Kutoi told him, the pasuk says, Loi tasker Eved l'Adenov. And they said, they made a mistake and said that any time an Eved runs away from his master, the Torah says, Loi tasker Eved l'Adenov, he shouldn't be returned. So Sholchu lehu, Reb Chizda told him, sent them back. The Torah says, V'chin tasa l'chameri, v'chin tasa l'simnosi, v'chin tasa l'chol abedes v'chicha. That when it comes to Hashavah says the Aveda, any type of objects you have to return. They send them back. But the pasuk says, so how are you going to explain this to us? So Chizda said that pasuk is talking about a hubeb shabbarach from chutz la'aretz. That's talking about a servant who ran away from chutz la'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. Like Achi b'Rabbi Yishin explained this whole pasuk Ashir Natzel, and therefore you have to return it. Why? Because I'm chutz la'aretz. The Eved ran away chutz la'aretz, and that pasuk is not speaking about the way you quoted it. So the Gemara asks, why did he say the way that Achi b'Rabbi explained and not like Rabbi? And like Rashi explains, at these they did not believe in Pashtei Psukim, and the way that the Achi b'Rabbi is not simple pshat pasuk. So therefore, the way that the Rebbe explained it is not simple pshat pasuk. So therefore, they brought Achi b'Rabbi. Now the Gemara says a story. Abaya lost his chamor, his donkey, to the Beikutoi. Shochelu, so Abaya sent him, Shadru li, give it back to me. Shochele, they said, Shlach Simon, give us a simin. Sholach lehu, they sent him, and he said, the chivore kreise, it has a white belly. So Shochele, so the Bnei Kutoi told Abaya, Ilav Nachmeni out, if not for you or Nachmeni, in other words, you weren't such a trustworthy guy, you're like a chassid that doesn't lie. We would never give it back to you. Why? Because otu chamari lav krisayu chivori ninu are not all donkeys don't have white bellies. In other words, that simon is not a good simon for Hashavas Aveda. Mishnah continues now in other halachas of Tikkun Olam. The Mishnah says, "Ein poignes hashvuyim yosher al kidei dimein." You're not allowed to redeem a captive more than the value the captive is worth in Tikkun Olam because of Tikkun Olam. As the Gemara will explain what Tikkun Olam means. Ve'ein mavrichin es hashvuyim, and we do not help people that are in captivity in Tikkun Olam. And we don't want that when they run away, they're going to make the other prisoners crazy. By tying them up even more, by noticing their security is not strong enough, so therefore, we don't help prisoners escape. Shimon Gamliel says, this is Mifnei Takanas Revuim, and the Gemara will explain the nafkamina between the two. They asked the Shai Lahai Mifnei Tikkun Olam this, that we say Mifnei Tikkun Olam, Ain't Poignes Hashvuyim Yashal Kedei Dimeim, Mifnei Tikkun Olam, is Mishum Duchka de Tzipur, is Mitzad, we don't want the community to go broke from redeeming him, or perhaps or is it because we don't want the enemies to get excited that every time that they capture a year they can make so much money? And now the nafkamina will be if a father, or let's say one of the kravim who is an usher and wants to redeem more than the value, so there's no shash of the duchke de tzibura. However, there's a chash of that the captors will go and take more yidden. So Tashma, come and bring a raya from this story. The Levi Bar Darga parked Barti Betlesa Alpha dinars of that Levi Bar Darga redeemed his daughter for 13,000 dinars of, which was a lot of money. So we see that we're not worried mitzad duch de tzibura. Rather, we're worried. We're not worried about that they're going to capture more. Rather, about deichik the tzibur, and therefore when the tzibur is not involved, then it'll be mutter. Amar Abai says, but who said that this Levi Bar Darga did the right thing? Maybe he did it not the way the Chachamim want. Then the Mishnah said, the Gemara says, what's the nafkamina between these two? The nafkamina will be if there's only one guy who was captured. According to Tanakama, who holds that, according to the Tanakama, you cannot, who says, So even if there's only one person who's captured, we're worried that the next time they capture somebody, they're going to drive him crazy and tie him up even more. But according to Shimon Gamliel, the chashash is that the people that are remained over there, you're going to make them crazy. That there's nobody left over there. There's only one person, so it's not a problem. But also, the daughters of Rav Nachman, they used to place their hands in a very hot pot, and they wouldn't get burnt. So he thought that these people are tzidkanius, they're righteous people. Kashiles, he had a question. So Kashiles, Rabbi Elish, the pasuk says in Kehelas Odom Echad Me'elef Matzasi, I find that 1 out of 1,000 people are really a tzaddik. The Yishuv Chal Elim Matzasi, but in regards to a woman, there's no really woman who's a tzaddikis. So he says the Chayra Ha'ika B'Nasi Rav Nachman, but there is the daughters of Rav Nachman who are tzidkanius. So Gomer Lehu Milsa V'Yishtabyon. So this Misad Ayin Hoda, it caused now that the daughters of Rav Nachman went to captivity. And Rabbi Elish also went into captivity. One day they were sitting in prison, and Rabbi Elish was there. There was a man who understood the languages of birds. So a raven came to Rabbi Elish and said Amrlei. So Rabbi Elish started talking to Rabbi Elish, calling him. So Rabbi Elish tells the man who understands the bird language, my Amr, what is he saying? Amrlei. So he said, Elish brach, Elish run away. Amrlei, Arva shikri hu v'loi simchin alayu. The ravens are liars, and you can't rely on them. As we find by Neach, that you can't trust, as the Marsha says, you can't trust over there, you can't trust the raven. Now, Adhochi also then a dove came and started calling him Amrlei. So Rabbi Elish tells the bird guy, my Amrlei, what's he saying? Amrlei, he said, Elish brach, Elish run away. So Amar, Elish says, Knesset Yisrael kina misilo. A Knesset Yisrael is compared to a dove, and Shamas Minim Misrachash Nisei. So I can learn from this that a nest is going to happen to me. And I'm going to be matzliach to run away. Omar, he said, Ezel Achsi b'nosi Rav Nachman. Let me go and see the daughters of Rav Nachman. He came if they still have faith, so then I'm going to bring them back with me. Omar. So what do you say? Nashi kol milidi islihu sadrin lahadadi b'eskakis. He said that woman, all the secrets they say in the bathroom. So he says, let me go and eavesdrop in the bathroom. Shaminu kamri. He heard them saying, Odai. Guvrin, these captors are our husbands now. Unardai Guvrin, and the people in Unardai are also our husbands. In other words, just like they are our husbands in the past, so too the captors are our husbands now. So basically, they were saying we don't need our husbands anymore in Ardai. Let us say to our captors to distance us from here, so that our husbands in Ardai should not hear us and try to redeem us. So the Elish understood that these people are not, they're not trustworthy. Kom Arak, so he got up to run away without taking the daughters of Rav Nachman. Also, Hahu Gavra, so that man, he came, and the man who understood the bird language, is Lidi Deis Sachash Denisa over B'Mambara. To Rav Elish, and this happened, and he was able to pass a river. Bahu Gavra Ashkechu Katlu, but the bird guy, they killed him. He hadrin v'asan at the end when the daughters of Rav Nachman came back. Amr Rabbi Elish says havu b'chashan kidra b'chshafim, that the way that they're able to survive this whole the hot pot of putting their hands and not getting burned, is because they did kishuv and not because they're righteous. So the Mishnah vein leichtim svarim tulim mezuzos menayvit kichav yasser al kedei dimei, and not allowed to buy sifrei teda tulim mezuzos from goyim more than they're worth. Why in order that not Tikkun Elam, as Rashi says, either way you could say Tikkun Elam. Dog the Gemara, Amlet of Budya of Ashi, so Budya told Rav Ashi. Now, from the terminology in the Mishnah, it says Yasal Kedei Dimein Hu Dein Leichen. It's mashma that more than they're worth, they cannot rebuy the Sifeteda from Goyim. Ha B'chtei Dimein, but for the value Leichen, you could buy Shema Mina. From here we derive that Sifeteda Shenim Sibiyale V'Kichavim, that a Sifeteda that's found in the hands of a Goy, Kedem Ba, you're allowed to read it, and we're not worried that the V'Kichavim used the L'Shem V'Kichavim. Because if it was possible to read it, what's the purpose of buying it? Elamai, that you could read it. The Gemara says no, you can't bring a raya from that Mishnah because Dilma Lignes. Maybe he meant that you're not allowed to read it, but just to do Gniza, because we don't want it in the hands of a guy. Nachman says, Nakina, we have a tradition, Sefer Torah Sheksav Min, a Sefer Torah that a Min wrote, you said if you should burn it. And when a guy wrote it, not a Min, not a heretic, so then, Yiganis, you should do Gniza. Min, Yiganis. Now, if it's written, again, if it's, Sefer Torah Sheksav Min, is Yisad, Ksav Ovid Kichavim, is Yiganis. If it nimtza bi'admin, if it just, you found the Sefer Torah in the hands of the Min Yiganis, you should do Gnisa. Nimtza bi'admin kichavim, Amrlei Yiganis, some people say you should do Gnisa, but Amrlei Keren, some people say you should do Keren, but Mitzat Shek and Tesis argues. Okay. Right there, Sefer Torah Sheksav Kichavim, Tani Chada, we learned one brayse that says you should burn. Tani Idach, and one brayse that says Yiganis, you should burn, you should do Gnisa. Tani Idach, and another brayse that says Kaidim Ba, you should read it. So now the question is, in three brises, I have a stira. One place says, Yisarif, another brisa says Yigonis, another brisa says Kain Ba. What do you do? So it says like Kasha, it depends. How the time Yisarif this, that the brisa says you burn it, Rabbi Lazar, that's Rabbi Lazar Damar, Stam Machshava says Kichavim, Rabbi Kichavim. The Stam Goy, his Machshava is for Rabbi Kichavim, and therefore Sefer Torah that a Goy wrote, needs to be burnt, because there's a chazaka that was written for Rabbi Zara. The whole time in this, that the Brisa says Yigonis, you have to do Gniza, the Tanahu, this is the following Tana. The Tana, Rabbi Nuna B'rei Rabba, which is the son of Rabba, me Pashrein, he says, Sefer Torah, Tefilin Mezuz, Ksav Yimin, Umaster, Eved Kichavim, Ve'eved, Isha, V'katim, V'kutiv, Yisrael, Umar, Psulin, Shnemar, like it says, Ukshartem, Torah says, Ukshartem, Leisal Yodecha, Uksavtem, as we know, Amazuzais. And let's learn, Kol Yeshne B'kshira, anybody who has the mitzvah of Hanachas Tefillin, Yeshne B'ksiva, could write. V'chol Shene B'kshira, and somebody who's not in B'kshira, in Ksiva, cannot write it. And since, since these people are not B'chal Mitzvahs Hanachas Tefillin, they're possible to write the Sefer Torah, and therefore Sefer Torah which is written by them should be Gniza. Well, the Tanya, this that the Brisa says Kaidim Ba, Hai Tanahu, it's the following Tana. Tanya Leifim Svarim min Ha'ivdi Kechavim B'chal Makim V'vad Yuksuvim Kechasa. Ma'aser Ha'ivdi Kechavim V'tzidin Shaya Kaisiv Svarim. There's a Ma'aser with an Ha'ivdi Kechavim Tzidin that a guy wrote a Sefer Svarim. V'treb Hashem Gamliel Likach Mimeno. So what do we see from here? That some Tanaim do not hold of the din of Kol Sheyesh Eini B'Kshira Eini B'Ksiva. Therefore, a guy that is kosher to write a Sefer Torah, and therefore the Brisa holds that Shekodim Sefer Torah Sheksav Ed Kechavim. Now the problem is that a guy that wrote a Sefer Torah, you have another problem. You have a suffix, maybe it was not written Lishma, and even though Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds that you could purchase from a Sefer Torah to read, so it's mashma that a Sefer Torah does not need to be written Lishma. So Frekter L'chayda of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Ibn Lishma Boy Ksiv Lishma Lei Boy. You're telling me that Ibn Lishma needs, but Ksiv you don't need. But the Tanya we learned Tzipon B'Zav was quoted. The bottom were quoted with Zav Oishtala Alein Eir Behemet Mea Psulis. So it's possible Eir Behemet Teheda Kshedes. But if it's a skin of Behemet Teheda, it's kosher. Obviously Ibn Lishman, even if you do not tie to Lishman. So if Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds that you need the Eid Habatim of Tefillin Lishman, for sure in the Ksiva, the Parshas of Tefillin, the Sefer Torah needs to be Lishman. So how could he masher Tefillin, the Sefer Torah that a guy wrote, if it was not written Lishma? So Amar Rav Shmuel, he says this, that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, it's kosher, it's Beger Shechazul Suri. It's talking about a ger that was chayzer to his bad actions. So he knows that it has to be written Lishma. And this, that the goy in Tzidin, that Rav Shimon Gamliel was mater to buy Sefer Torah was a ger shechaz l'sura. So the Gemara says l'sura, if he went back to his bad ways, so kol shekin tevel lemin. If he knows the halachas, for sure he didn't write Lishma. So Rashi, not shechaz l'sura mishum yira, he retracted because he was scared of the government, but not because he doesn't believe in Yiddishkeit. Taran Abanan, Malim b'demein, akidei tar up. That you could be meisif up to a tarapik, which how much is that? My tarapik, it's like the seller in the Medina, which is a certain value. There's a certain Yishmaelis woman that brought a bag of tefillin, like bags of tefillin she stole from Abaya, Amarle, or she stole and she brought to Abaya. Abaya says, I'll buy it off from you for like one date, or each tefillin, very little amount. So Maya Ziyar, she got so angry, and Shakla Shidisui Benahara, she was so angry that Abaya lowballed her, so she took all the tefillin and she threw it in the ocean. Omar Abaya says, I should not mizalzel the tefillin so much by making it worth so little that this caused it.